The fluorescent lights in the hospital waiting room buzzed overhead like dying insects. I sat in the same plastic chair I'd occupied for the past 3 hours, watching the saline drip slowly into my husband's arm. Robert's eyes were closed, his breathing shallow but steady. At 52, he looked closer to 70. The years of brutal labour had carved deep lines into his face, turned his hair completely grey, stolen the vitality from his body. My phone vibrated in my lap. A text from my neighbour back in the suburbs. "Are you seeing this? Someone posted about you." My chest tightened. I opened the link. There it was. A photograph of a single sweet potato sitting on a pristine marble countertop, looking small and pathetic against all that expensive stone. The caption read, "My mother-in-law spent $3 on this ugly vegetable when we have a fully stocked refrigerator. She wastes our money on random junk and expects us to support her lifestyle. Some people have no shame. Ungrateful in-laws. Disrespectful elders." The post had gone viral. 17,000 likes, 4,000 shares, hundreds of comments calling me selfish. Entitled, "A Burden on My Poor Son and His Hard-Working Wife." I stared at that sweet potato. I had bought it this morning at the farmer's market near the hospital. $3. Robert used to love sweet potatoes when he was still eating solid food, before the cancer treatments made everything taste like metal and ash. "Mrs. Miller?" A nurse appeared in front of me. "We're finishing up the last bag. Maybe another 20 minutes. Thank you." My voice came out steady, which surprised me. I looked back at my phone. The comments kept rolling in. "Throw her out. She's manipulating you. Old people like this are parasites." I thought about sending the post to my son Brandon, then decided against it. He already knew. His wife Madison had probably shown it to him with tears in her eyes, playing the victim like she always did. And Brandon, my sweet boy who used to hold my hand crossing the street, would take her side. He always did now. The memories came flooding back, sharp and unwanted. 3 years ago, before the diagnosis, before everything fell apart, Robert was still working then, still strong enough to put in 12-hour shifts at the construction site. Brandon had just graduated with his business degree, moved to Denver for a finance job, married Madison within 6 months. We were so proud. "Mum, Dad, move in with us," Brandon had said during one of our video calls. "You've done enough. Let us take care of you for once." Robert had hesitated. I saw it in his eyes, that stubborn independence that made him refuse help, even when his knees were screaming after another double shift. But I was tired too. Tired of watching him destroy himself. Tired of our tiny apartment in Tulsa where the heat barely worked and the neighbors fought at 3 in the morning. "Just for a while," I told Robert that night, "until we figure things out." So we moved across the country to their pristine apartment in Denver. 3 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows, furniture that cost more than we used to make in a year. Madison had decorated everything in whites and greys, minimalist and cold. The first week was fine. The second week, the rules started appearing. Madison called a family meeting one Sunday evening. She sat across from us at their glass dining table, a printed document in her hands like she was presenting a business proposal. "So I wanted to go over some household guidelines," she said, smiling that thin smile that never reached her eyes. "Just to make sure we're all on the same page." Brandon sat beside her, looking uncomfortable but silent. "First, about the utilities. The heating system. It's really expensive here, and honestly, it's not good for the environment to run it constantly." She looked directly at Robert, "So we're going to keep it on a timer, 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. only. During the day, there are plenty of blankets in the closet." I felt Robert stiffen beside me. He'd been feeling cold constantly since we arrived. Something about the change in climate and his age. He'd been wearing 2 sweaters even indoors. "Madison, honey," I started carefully, "your father-in-law has circulation issues. The doctor said 8 hours of heat should be sufficient for anyone." She cut me off. "My parents are the same age and they manage just fine." "Brandon?" I looked at my son, waiting for him to speak up. He avoided my eyes. "Mum, the bills here are really high. We have to be careful. We can pay more toward utilities, Robert said quietly. His voice was already weakening, though we didn't know why yet. Wouldn't know for another 6 months, when the diagnosis would come down like a hammer. Madison's expression hardened. It's not about the money. It's about being responsible, about not being wasteful. But it was about the money. It was always about the money with her. The grocery shopping came next. Madison bought everything organic, everything name brand, everything unnecessarily expensive. $200 grocery trips every week, and she'd come home with 6 items. Designer yogurt, artisanal bread, free-range eggs from chickens that apparently lived better than we did. Meanwhile, when I bought a $5 bag of regular rice from the discount store, she'd hold it up with 2 fingers like it was contaminated. Linda, we don't eat this kind of rice. It's not the right quality. It's the same rice we ate our whole lives while paying for your college, I said. Brandon shot me a warning look. Mum, please. Please. Always please. Please be quiet. Please don't upset Madison. Please pretend you don't notice how she looks at you like you're an inconvenience. The real breaking point came that first winter. Robert was getting sicker, though we still didn't have a name for it yet. He'd wake up at 3 in the morning shaking from cold, even under 3 blankets. I'd go to adjust the thermostat and find it locked behind a plastic case. Madison controls it from her phone, Brandon explained when I asked. His voice was tight with guilt, but not enough to actually do anything. It's a smart thermostat. Your father is freezing. She says 8 hours is standard. That's what her parents. I don't give a damn about her parents, I'd shouted the first time I'd really lost my temper. Your father worked himself half to death so you could have your degree, so you could have this fancy job, and now you can't even keep him warm? Brandon's face had flushed red. We're letting you live here rent-free, Mom. We're doing you a favour. Those words. They hung in the air like poison gas. A favour. As if everything we'd sacrificed had been erased. As if we were beggars at their door instead of parents who'd given up everything. I'd gone silent after that. What was there to say? And the nurse's voice pulled me back to the present. All done, Mrs. Miller. Doctor says you can take him home now. Home. The word tasted bitter. I helped Robert into his jacket, moving slowly and gently. He was so light now, so fragile. The cancer had stolen 40 pounds from his frame in 6 months. He looked like a ghost of himself. You okay? He whispered as we shuffled toward the elevator. Fine. You're not fine. I can tell. 27 years of marriage. He could read me like a book, even now when he could barely keep his eyes open. In the Uber back to Brandon's apartment, I showed him the post. Robert stared at the screen for a long time. His hand trembled slightly. When he looked up at me, there were tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he said. For what? For being sick. For making you deal with this. Robert Miller, you apologize one more time for having cancer, and I swear to God. I'm serious. His voice cracked. You should be enjoying your retirement. Instead, you're wiping down a man who can't even walk to the bathroom by himself, dealing with our son's wife who treats you like garbage, getting called names on the internet because you bought a $3 sweet potato. It was a nice sweet potato. He laughed, then coughed, then laughed again through the coughing. You always did have excellent taste in produce. When we got back to the apartment, Madison was in the living room scrolling through her phone. She looked up when we entered, her expression unreadable. How was the hospital? She asked, not moving from the couch. Fine, I said. Where's Brandon? Work meeting. He'll be late. She returned to her phone, dismissing us. I helped Robert to the guest room. Our room, though it never felt like ours. The bed had white sheets that Madison changed herself because she didn't trust me to wash them correctly. The closet held our few belongings, carefully squeezed into one side to minimize space. Rest, I told Robert. I'll make dinner. You sure? I'm sure. In the kitchen, I found the sweet potato still sitting on the counter, exactly where I'd left it this morning. I picked it up, feeling its weight, its rough skin. Such a small thing, such a stupid, insignificant thing to cause so much trouble. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through Madison's post again. The comments had multiplied. Thousands of strangers calling me selfish, lazy, ungrateful. People who knew nothing about us, nothing about the years Robert worked himself into the ground, nothing about the times I went without so Kevin could have new shoes for school. One comment stood out. People like this are why families fall apart. No respect for boundaries or finances. I set the sweet potato down and stared at it for a long moment. Then I went to our room and started packing. "What are you doing?" Robert asked from the bed. "We're leaving." "What?" "Tonight. After Brandon gets home. We're leaving." Robert struggled to sit up. "Where will we go?" "The old apartment. Mrs. Patterson said it's still available. She never rented it out." "That place is falling apart. Then we'll fall apart together." I folded one of Robert's shirts, moving methodically. "I'm done. I'm done being treated like a burden. I'm done watching you freeze. I'm done keeping quiet while she posts pictures of our groceries on the internet for strangers to mock. Brandon made his choice." My voice was harder than I'd ever heard it. "He chose her. That's fine. But I'm choosing us now. I'm choosing your dignity. I'm choosing mine." Robert was quiet for a long time. Then, "Okay." "Okay? I'm tired of being cold," he said simply. "And I miss our old neighborhood. Mrs. Patterson makes better casserole than anyone here." I almost smiled. Almost. 2 hours later, Brandon came home to find us sitting in the living room, our 2 suitcases by the door. Madison was still on the couch, but her posture had changed. She was tense now, alert. "What's going on?" Brandon asked, looking between us and the luggage. I stood up. My son was tall, taller than his father, with his father's strong jaw and my eyes. But right now, I barely recognized him. "We're leaving," I said. "What? Why? Is this about the heating thing? Because I told you we can look into—" "It's about the sweet potato, Brandon." His face went blank. "What?" I held up my phone, showing him the viral post. "Your wife took a picture of a vegetable I bought and posted it online. 17,000 people now think I'm a wasteful old woman who steals from her own children." Madison's eyes flashed. "I didn't mention any names. And you were being wasteful. We have food in the house already." "A $3 sweet potato," I said quietly. "That's what broke you. Not the $200 grocery trips for 6 items. Not the designer furniture or the organic everything. A $3 sweet potato that I bought for your father-in-law, who worked 12-hour shifts for 20 years so his son could go to college and become a finance manager." "Mom," Brandon started. "No." I cut him off with a single word, sharp as a blade. "You don't get to talk right now. You get to listen." Madison stood up. "This is our house. You can't talk to us like this." "You're right. It is your house. Which is why we're leaving." I turned back to Brandon and something in my chest cracked. "Do you remember winter when you were 8? Your father had pneumonia. He missed 3 weeks of work, no sick pay, and we were 2 months behind on rent. But he still bought you that PlayStation you wanted for Christmas. Do you remember that?" Brandon's face had gone pale. "Mum, I don't." "He worked the day after he got out of the hospital because we were so far behind. Double shifts for 6 months straight to catch up. He was coughing blood, but he still went in every single day. And do you know why?" "Stop it," Brandon said quietly. "Because you wanted to go to college. Because you were so smart, so talented, and we knew you deserved better than what we had. So your father destroyed his body for you. For your future. For this." I gestured around the pristine apartment. "And now he's dying, Brandon. He's dying, and he's freezing in your house because your wife thinks 8 hours of heat is sufficient." Madison's face had turned red. "That's not fair. We didn't ask you to move in. We didn't ask for any of this. And we certainly didn't ask to support you while you make unnecessary purchases and—" "Unnecessary." The word exploded out of me, years of swallowed rage finally breaking free. You spend $200 on groceries that feed you for 3 days, and you're lecturing me about $3. You buy $1,000 throw pillows that nobody can sit on, and you're calling me wasteful? Those are investments in our home? This isn't a home. I was shouting now, really shouting, and I didn't care. A home doesn't have timer-controlled heat. A home doesn't have rules about what kind of rice you can eat. A home doesn't post pictures of your mother-in-law's groceries on the internet for entertainment. Jesus, Mom. Brandon stepped between us, his hands up like he was breaking up a fight. Madison, maybe you shouldn't have posted that. Maybe? I stared at my son. Maybe. Madison's eyes were bright with angry tears. I'm not going to be attacked in my own home. Your mother is being completely unreasonable. We've given her everything. You've given us nothing, I said. Nothing but rules and restrictions and judgment. You want to know what you've given us? 8 hours of heat, limited shower times, passive-aggressive comments about every single thing we do, and an internet mob calling me selfish while you fill this apartment with things that cost more than my husband's cancer medication. The room went dead silent. Brandon's voice was barely a whisper. What? I hadn't meant to say it, not like that. But it was out now. The deductible on Dad's insurance, the co-pays, the medications that aren't covered. It's $7,000 a month, Brandon. $7,000 that we're paying out of the money we saved our whole lives. Money we were supposed to use for retirement. Instead, we're choosing between keeping your father alive and keeping a roof over our heads. Brandon's face crumpled. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were so proud of this apartment, so proud of Madison and her fancy job and her designer taste. And we didn't want to burden you. I grabbed the handle of my suitcase. But we're done now. We're done being ashamed of $3 sweet potatoes. We're done freezing. We're done pretending this arrangement works. Where will you go? Brandon asked. His voice was hollow. Mrs. Patterson's building. Our old apartment is still empty. We'll be fine. But the heat barely works there. The neighborhood is full of people who understand what it means to sacrifice for your family, who won't mock us for buying vegetables, who know the difference between luxury and necessity. I turned to Robert, who'd stood up slowly from the couch. Ready? He nodded, taking my arm for support. Madison was crying now, but they were angry tears, not sad ones. Fine. Leave then. See how you manage without our help. See how long you last in that dump. I paused at the door, looking back at her. Your parents live in Florida, right? In that nice retirement community? She blinked, confused by the question. Yes, why? I hope you're planning to take care of them someday. I hope they move in with you when they get older. And I hope you give them the same 8 hours of heat and the same grocery restrictions and the same public shaming. I met her eyes. Because that's what you're going to get from Brandon. He learned from the best. Brandon's face went white. Mum, that's not... Goodbye, Brandon. The door clicked shut behind us. 3 weeks later, I stood at the window of our old apartment in Tulsa, looking down at the street below. Mrs. Patterson had indeed kept it available. Held it for us at the old rent out of kindness and loyalty. The heat was spotty, the water pressure low, the floors creaky. It was perfect. Robert was in the bedroom sleeping peacefully under 4 blankets with the thermostat set to 75. No timer, no restrictions, just warmth. My phone buzzed. A message from Brandon. Can I come see you tomorrow? I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Of course. Another message came through, this one from my neighbor in Denver. She'd sent me a screenshot. The viral post was gone, deleted. In its place was a new post from Madison. Taking a social media break to focus on family. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time. I almost laughed. Difficult time. As if we were the ones making things difficult. But then I thought about Brandon. About the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the park and call them flowers. About the young man who cried when he got his college acceptance letter because he knew what it meant for us. That Brandon was still in there somewhere, buried under Madison's influence and his own guilt and confusion. Maybe tomorrow I'd see him. Maybe we'd talk. Maybe we wouldn't fix anything, but we'd start to understand. Or maybe not. Maybe he'd made his choice and that was that. Either way, I had Robert. I had warmth. I had dignity. And I had a sweet potato in the kitchen, waiting to be roasted for dinner. It was enough. And the knock came at 10 in the morning. I'd been expecting it, had put coffee on to brew, had set out the good mugs. Brandon stood in the hallway looking smaller than I remembered. His eyes were red. "Hi, Mom." "Hi, baby." "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked slowly into the apartment, looking around at the familiar space. The same threadbare couch we'd had for 20 years. The same kitchen table with the wobbly leg. The same photos on the walls. "Where's Dad?" "Sleeping. The treatment yesterday was rough." Brandon's hands clenched. "I didn't know. About the money. About how bad it was." "I know. I should have known. I should have asked." "Yes," I said simply. "You should have." He sat down at the kitchen table, putting his head in his hands. "I'm so sorry, Mom. For all of it. The heat, the rules, the post. I was trying to keep the peace with Madison and I stopped seeing you. I stopped seeing Dad. You became problems to manage instead of people to care for." I poured the coffee, set a mug in front of him. "What changed?" "You left." His voice broke. "You actually left. And the apartment was a mess within 3 days. Madison and I kept fighting about who should clean what. Nothing was organized. Nothing ran smoothly. And I realized you'd been doing everything, managing everything, taking care of everything while we criticized you for spending $3. "It was a very nice sweet potato," I said. He laughed through tears. "I'm sure it was." He looked up at me. "Madison took the post down. She feels terrible." "Does she?" "She does. She really does. She was stressed about work and money, and she took it out on you in the worst possible way. She knows that now." I sipped my coffee. "And what about you, Brandon? What do you know now?" He was quiet for a long time. "I know I failed you. Both of you. I know Dad worked himself to death for me and I repaid him by making him freeze in my house. I know you raised me better than this, and I forgot every lesson you taught me the second it became inconvenient." "Yes," I said. "You did. Can you forgive me?" I looked at my son. My beautiful, flawed, human son who'd made terrible choices but was at least trying to face them now. "I already have," I said. "But Brandon, listen to me. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean moving back into your apartment or pretending none of this happened. Your father and I are staying here. This is our home now." "But the heat. Work's fine. We're managing. The medical bills are ours to handle. We don't need your money, Brandon. We need your respect. We need you to see us as human beings who made sacrifices for you, not problems to be managed or burdens to be tolerated." Brandon nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I can do that. I want to do that." "Then start by coming to visit your father, not to check on us or help us or manage us, just to sit with him, to talk to him, to be his son." "Okay." He wiped his eyes. "Can I see him now?" I stood up, started toward the bedroom, then paused. "Brandon, one more thing." "Yeah?" "The sweet potato was for your father. He used to love them. I was going to roast it for him before his appetite got too bad." I met his eyes. "Every choice you make, every restriction you impose, every rule you create, they affect real people with real needs. Remember that." His face crumpled again, but he nodded. I pushed open the bedroom door. Robert was awake, propped up on pillows, looking frail but peaceful in the afternoon light. "Brandon's here," I said softly. Robert's face lit up. "Brandon?" My son moved past me, sitting carefully on the edge of the bed. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, son." They talked for an hour. I stayed in the kitchen listening to the low murmur of their voices, the occasional laugh, the tears, building something new, maybe something better, maybe not. But at least it was honest. At least it was warm.